Hey there, John and Matt from Annapolis School of Seamanship with some tips for you if you're taking the boat out this weekend or at any time this week. It's 4th of July week, so there's going to be a lot of boat traffic. And for some of you, it's probably the first time you're getting the boat out this summer. So we have 10 tips for you, and it's by no means comprehensive, but it is 10 tips, things you may or may not have thought of. And we're going to start with heat. It's extremely hot right now.
This is the hot week.
Yeah.
So on these hot weeks, you want to make sure that before, during, and after, you're staying well hydrated. A long day out on the water, this heat, really quickly be dehydrated, especially if you're doing water sports activities like swimming or tubing or something like that. So
Water.
yep. Any kind of hydration.
The second thing we want to bring up to you is alcohol. We know that alcohol is often on boats. The bottom line is the driver shouldn't be drinking at all. The legal limit in Maryland and Virginia is 0.08, same as driving a car. But you shouldn't. It's good practice for the driver, the operator of the boat, not to be consuming alcohol. It compounds the effect of the heat. It's harder to be hydrated, and of course, it's going to slow your decisions down.
Between bouncing around on the boat, being out in the sun, like John said, alcohol, it just has more of an effect on you. And while it might be somewhat legal for an operator to do it, it is, like I said, the legal limit's 0.08 for the operator. It's still not a great idea. If you look at the numbers, a good deal of accidents on the water all have one thing in common.
Yeah, that's alcohol.
And it might not, this should go for your boat, but then you also just need to keep an eye out for other boaters out there. You might not be one of those.
Yeah, that goes to the next point, which is watch out for the other boats. Just because you're doing everything right, there's a lot of folks out this weekend in varying degrees of experience and sadly varying degrees of alcohol. So don't assume that other boat sees you. Don't assume that they know how to avoid you. So just watch out for other boaters. Here's something you may not have thought of. Make sure you have an anchor on board. It's a good idea to have an anchor with you and plenty of anchor line. And just take a look at it before you go out. Make sure it's in good condition. And also, we want to make sure before you put it in the water.
Make sure it's tied off the boat before you throw it overboard, so that way you don't lose the whole thing. And make sure you're kind of familiar with how to anchor. Whether you're anchoring for 20 minutes to let people jump off and go swimming, or you're going to be somewhere even longer, make sure you put out enough anchor line that you stay put, and you also, not so much that you're going to swing into your neighbors, but when people want to anchor for the 4th of July, that is where I've seen a lot of chaos happening with people anchoring. So make sure you give yourself enough room, make sure you're familiar with how to anchor a little bit.
All right, float plan. A float plan can be, you don't have to fill out a real complicated form or anything, but a float plan is very simple. Let somebody know you're going out, somebody who's staying ashore, somebody responsible. Let them know where you think you're going to be going in the boat and when you expect to be back. Somebody's got to know when you're overdue. If you break down, cell phone dies, cell phone gets wet, and you can't communicate, somebody responsible has to be able to call the authorities and tell them, hey, we were expecting John and Matt to be back by 5, and now it's 6, and we can't reach them on their cell phone. They said they were going to, Round Bay on the Severn River or something.
Yeah, make sure you let them know where you're going, how many people you're going with, when you intend to come back. And when you get back, one of the important things is make sure you let that person know who was your float plan that you're back and you're safe. So, like you mentioned earlier, a good text message is a good way to actually almost physically document the fact that, hey, we're back. Not just a simple phone call that says, hey, we're back.
Yeah, I like belt and suspenders, so it's both. Call them, tell them you're going out, and then follow it up with a text so that they have a written record, because they're not going to remember when did they say they were coming back, where did they say they were going, so put it in a text to follow up. If you're going to put swimmers, Matt mentioned swimmers, if you're going to do any water sports, tubing or whatever, and you have to pick people up from the water, or if you're going to anchor the boat and go swimming, it's really, really important. Whenever you're approaching a person in the water or you have somebody swimming off your boat, engine off. Not just in neutral, but off. And one thing that people don't think about when they're anchored and swimming is if you have a generator on board, generator off. There have been carbon monoxide poisoning cases from people who are swimming and the generator exhaust actually got carbon monoxide poisoning while swimming behind the boat.
Yeah, it can be harmful, but definitely picking up people who've fallen off tubes, wakeboards, wake surfing, all the above. If you're going to pick them up out of the water, bring the boat to, get close to them, but then turn the engine off before they attempt to climb back on board the boat, which is too many unfortunate cases where that's going wrong.
Obviously, you got to have all your safety equipment, and we did a video on this, a podcast on having the right stuff on board. So we're not going to do a comprehensive list here, but I want to stress life jackets, life jackets, life jackets, flotation, flotation, flotation.
One for everybody on board.
Yep, and make sure it fits. You know, if you have kid life jackets, that doesn't work for adults, and adult life jackets don't work for kids. So make sure that you have the right life jackets on board. And if you're going to use inflatables, like you have one here, these are great. If you have these, they only count if you're wearing it. So if you have it on board and you're not wearing it, it won't count towards the number of life jackets you have on board.
With the life jackets fitting, that's a big one, especially for kids. Make sure that if you have kids' life jackets, you test them out. A good way to test out a kid's life jacket is to have them put it on, buckle it up, zip it up, grab them by the shoulder straps, give them a lift, make sure they don't start to slip out of it. And then when you look at toddlers' life jackets especially, or you're under 13, things like that, you need to make sure they have both the crotch straps and the lifting straps on the back of the life jacket. Yeah.
Throwable.
Throwable.
Yeah, that goes in that category. Throwable, if somebody's in the water and they need flotation, you have a throwable. A lot of people think of them as as seat cushions. You can have more than one, but you got to have at least one. Okay, what do we got? Oh, check the weather.
Check the weather. Before you leave, make sure you do a good weather check and see what the forecast is going to be. And then while you're out on the water, make sure you're monitoring what the current weather conditions are doing. Just simply taking a look up at the sky and seeing if you see any dark clouds out in the distance. If you see clouds with a lot of vertical development, things like that, that could tell you that you might have some weather coming in, or just listen to the weather radio.
Yeah, it changes, right? So a lot of storms are well forecast, and that's great, listening to the weather, checking your weather apps, but watch the sky too, because some pop-up type storms, they might not be forecasted because they just pop up right where you are. So monitor the weather after just checking it before you go out. All right, nighttime. If you're going to operate at night, you should really have experience. That's one of the things this week in particular, you don't want to be doing that for the first time. You have to have a lot of familiarity with where you're boating, and you also have to make sure all your nav lights are working.
Before you leave for the day, even though you might not plan on being out at night, check your navigation lights, because it's really easy. Dinner's run late, you end up staying in one spot a little bit longer than you think, and then you need your navigation lights. So make sure you check them before you leave, because it might still be light, but as soon as that sun goes below the horizon, at that point you're legally required to have them.
You're also legally, if it starts raining,
Yep.
you know, you're supposed to have them on. So,
and like John said, with this time of year, with as much boat traffic is out, especially during the 4th of July, there's going to be so many boats out there with so many lights. So really make sure you feel comfortable operating at night with night navigation, looking into the lights on other vessels before you go out there and get caught out.
all right, so our 10th tip is another one you might not have thought of, and Matt made mention of. You get delayed. You could get delayed by dinner running late, or maybe you got delayed because the weather turned on you and you have to wait for the weather to pass, and now you're out later than you thought you were going to be. Make sure you have snacks. Make sure you have sunscreen on board, and I always recommend a towel, having a towel.
Towels, extra hoodies. I used to pack extra hoodies in my dry bag for folks who'd be surprised after, like you said, being out in the sun all day, and then the sun goes down and it gets cool. Or you've got people who are swimming and now they're a little chilled. So having things that I look at as helping prevent fatigue. So sunscreen, water, snacks, staying warm, being able to dry off. All these things prevent fatigue, and at the end of the day, help prevent accidents.
All right, so have fun and stay safe out there.